Tales of Herding Gods Episode 58. In the previous episode, Qin Mu continued his journey across the Eternal Peace Empire and was amazed to see how divine arts had spread among ordinary people. In Harmony Prefecture, he found peace and prosperity, farmers using spells to harvest crops and heavenly devil cult disciples using their magic to serve the community. Curious and kind-hearted, Qin Mu stopped to guide a group of young cultivators, showing them how to perfect the spell Spring Wind traveling close to the ground. With his creativity, he transformed the spell into both a knife skill and a battle technique, impressing everyone with his mastery and open-minded teaching. Soon after, the young patriarch and elder of discipline appeared, praising Qin Mu for his deep understanding of the great educational heavenly devil scriptures. Together, they traveled into Harmony Prefecture City, where Qin Mu realized how many cult disciples lacked access to proper education. He proposed establishing schools and colleges within the cult, a vision that the patriarch approved, entrusting Qin Mu with this great responsibility. As they entered the city lord's manor, senior members of the heavenly devil cult gathered for an important ceremony. Amid light-hearted tension, Granny C made her grand entrance, teasing everyone with her presence. But before Qin Mu could speak further, the hall fell silent as another figure arrived, the Saintess, Xianxia, his former classmate from Imperial College. And the story continues. Qin Mu was flabbergasted. He looked at Xianxia and then looked at Granny C beside him again with a stupefied expression. For the longest time, he had believed that Granny C and the Saintess of the Heavenly Devil Cult were one and the same. But now, standing before him, was another Xianxia, young, elegant, and introduced as the current Saintess. His mind spun in confusion. He remembered teasing the Saintess before, testing to see if she was really Granny C, and now realized how wrong he had been. Around them, the elders of the Heavenly Devil Cult were whispering. One side that the current Saintess was far more well-behaved than the previous generation, who, in his words, was a demoness. Granny C glared at the man so fiercely that he immediately turned away, pretending not to have spoken. When Xianxia stepped forward to greet Qin Mu, she did so with grace, offering her respects as Saintess Xianxia. Qin Mu returned the greeting politely, calling her junior sister. But behind her shy demeanor, Qin Mu sensed something deeper, a sharp mind and a heart unwilling to yield. As he watched her, he realized the truth. This Xianxia was the one who had defeated Fozi in the capital. Her shyness was only a mask. She had come to test him, to flaunt her abilities, to measure herself against the one chosen as young cult master. Granny C confirmed this when she revealed that Patriarch had once trained Xianxia personally. In fact, he had discovered her after finding Qin Mu and had even sighed that if he had met her first, he might not have chosen Qin Mu as successor. Their eyes met briefly, and Qin Mu could see it clearly, the pride and unspoken challenge in hers. Inwardly, Qin Mu smiled. He realized now that Xianxia's rivalry had been long in the making. When both of them took the Imperial College examination, she had been measured against him without even knowing it. But Qin Mu's performance, defeating Taoist Ling Yun and impressing the Emperor, had overshadowed everything she could do. The Patriarch's test was not about skill alone but leadership and potential. And in that, Qin Mu had been chosen. Yet Xianxia never accepted this, and her later victory over Fozi had been her way to prove herself. Now, she stood before him again, determined to show she was his equal. As the ceremony continued, the young patriarch suddenly asked, "Heavenly King Qian hasn't arrived yet?" When told that he hadn't, the patriarch's expression darkened. If Heavenly King Qian, a man known for his fiery impatience, was absent, it could only mean something serious had happened, something grave enough to prevent him from attending the cult master's ascension. The patriarch's voice softened as he turned to Qin Mu. "Young cult master," he said, "you must treat Heavenly King Qian's family well." Qin Mu's heart tightened at the implication. But before he could ask further, the patriarch gave a solemn command. "All 360 halts, unfurl your flags and meet at Saint Arrival Mountain." In an instant, the air was filled with movement. Gigantic banners burst open, covering the sky, And when they settled again, the city lord's manor in Harmony Prefecture had vanished. The world around Qin Mu shifted. What had once been a bustling city was gone, replaced by a strange, otherworldly realm. Mountains floated in the mist, and a circular sky arched above. There was no visible sun or ground, only light and illusion. Qin Mu realized they had arrived at Saint Arrival Mountain, the sacred ground of the heavenly saint cult. The young patriarch led him through the ethereal scenery until they stopped before a massive, ancient cypress pine. Beneath it stood a simple straw hut and a great stone. The patriarch and all the elders, guardians, and hall masters gathered there, forming a solemn circle. The patriarch began to speak, not of ceremony or power, but of history. He told the tale of the founding master of their cult, who had once come to this very place and met a humble woodcutter. That woodcutter, he said, was no ordinary man. With every swing of his axe, the cypress tree healed itself, and his movements carried profound truths. The founding master, recognizing a saint, begged to learn from him. The woodcutter taught him under the shade of the pine for decades, imparting deep wisdom about the path to sainthood. The woodcutter said, the patriarch recited, to become a saint, one must establish virtue, establish merit, and establish words. These are the three immortal deeds. When asked how to achieve them, the woodcutter replied, clear logic, clear understanding, clear teaching. The three clears make one the teacher of all people. He paused, his eyes reflecting reverence. The founding master comprehended this truth. He recorded the saint's teachings into a scripture, the great educational heavenly devil scriptures. In doing so, he achieved clear logic. He then traveled the world, spreading this wisdom to countless others, and thus attained clear understanding. Finally, he founded our heavenly saint cult, teaching that the path of a saint lies in everyday life, in acting naturally and justly. That was his clear teaching. The patriarch explained that although the founding master had established his virtue and words, he never completed the third deed, his merit, because he could not find where it lay. Even so, he had far surpassed ordinary men. The patriarch then turned to Qin Mu and asked solemnly, are you willing to inherit the founding master's virtue and words, his logic and understanding? Qin Mu bowed deeply. Disciple is willing. The patriarch smiled gently. Then the cult is yours. Sit upon the rock. Qin Mu obeyed and sat upon the great stone beneath the pine. The patriarch's voice deepened as he said, this rock is Saint's Rock, the saint's seat. The one who sits here is not only our cult master but also the sacred teacher of our faith. He looked over the assembly and commanded, all of you, perform the disciples' rite and pay your respects to the sacred teacher. 360 hall masters, 12 protector elders, 8 great supervisors, 3 heavenly kings, and the guardians, all bowed deeply in unison. Even xianxia, after a brief hesitation, followed suit. Their voices echoed across the mountain. Disciples pay our respects to the sacred cult master. Then the young patriarch called out to Granny C. His tone grew sharp. Li Tianxing, the new cult master has ascended. Why have you not appeared? Will you take the sacred techniques of our cult to your grave? Granny Sis' body trembled, and a rough, aged voice, not her own, answered. Disciple, follows teacher's decree. It was the voice of a man, cult master Li Tianxing, the previous master of the cult, speaking through her body. Though he had been killed by Granny C, he had imprinted his soul within her Tao heart, waiting for the moment to re-emerge. Stepping forward, Granny C, possessed by Li Tianxing, placed her palm upon Qin Mu's forehead. A beam of golden light flashed between her brows and his. Countless sounds filled Qin Mu's mind, the chanting of Buddhas, the murmurs of devils, and the resonant voice of saints from the heavens. It was chaotic yet divine. In that moment, Qin Mu realized the truth. The voice resonating within him, the wisdom flowing into his soul, was the very same voice that had once taught the founding master beneath this pine. What cult master Li had imparted to him was the scriptures that the woodcutter had imparted to the founding master. And that wraps up this episode. In this part, we saw Qin Mu officially take his place as the new cult master of the Heavenly Saint cult. The story revealed not only the ceremony itself but also the profound spiritual heritage and philosophical foundation behind the cult's existence. It all traced back to the encounter between the founding master and a mysterious woodcutter, an immortal sage who taught that the path to sainthood requires the completion of the 3 immortal deeds: establishing virtue, establishing merit, and establishing words. To achieve them, one must master clear logic, clear understanding, and clear teaching, the 3 pillars of enlightenment that make one a teacher to all people. We also learned about xianxia, the new generation saintess of the cult, and the surprising connection between her and Granny C. Qin Mu's confusion and realization created an emotional and humorous beginning to this episode. But it quickly gave way to a sense of gravity and destiny. Xianxia's pride and unspoken rivalry revealed that she, too, had been chosen and trained by the patriarch. Though fate favored Qin Mu in the end, her presence showed that within the cult, ambition and belief can coexist, and that Qin Mu's leadership will continue to be tested by those around him. The ascension ceremony at Saint Arrival Mountain was filled with mystical grandeur. The transformation of space, the gathering of all hall masters, guardians, and elders, and the retelling of the cult's origin gave the moment a sacred weight. The young patriarch's explanation of the woodcutter's teachings reminded everyone that true strength lies not in power alone, but in the ability to teach, guide, and act with righteousness. In the final moments, when Granny C was possessed by the spirit of the former cult master, Li Tianxing, the story reached its most mystical point. Through her, Li Tianxing passed on the divine scriptures to Qin Mu, the same teachings once bestowed by the saintly woodcutter upon the founding master. That transfer symbolized not just succession but the eternal continuation of the cult's ideals, wisdom, duty, and the enlightenment of humankind. This episode beautifully combined humor, philosophy, and destiny, showing Qin Mu's transformation from a student into a leader who must now bear the weight of history. It reminds us that the journey toward enlightenment is not one of solitude but one of responsibility, toward knowledge, toward others, and toward the legacy left behind. If you enjoyed this episode or found it meaningful, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to stay updated with the latest episodes in Qin Mu's extraordinary journey. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again in the next one.